Poppin', man. Hey, look, man. What's poppin'? What's goody? Goody? Good with y'all, boys. Look, man, we got a video. It's called the worst roller coaster deaths ever. You feel me? So, look, we about to go through this one. It's the Batman. That was my favorite roller coaster I ever went on. The Big Dipper. I have never been on that. The Shockwave, never. The Mind Bender, never. I never been on any other of these rides except the Batman. And when I tell you the Batman is amazing. I don't know how this got on here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But look, we better get into the video. Let's go.
The Batman. On June 28,
That's my
2008,
stuff, boy.
17-year-old Asia LaShawn Ferguson
Asia
visited Six Flags over
LaShawn.
Georgia with his family and church group. The Batman was an inverted roller coaster where passengers' legs dangled freely below the track.
Yep.
During his ride, Ferguson's hat flew off his head. After the ride ended, he wanted to retrieve it. The hat had landed in a restricted area beneath the roller coaster tracks. Warning signs marked the zone as
No.
off limits. Ferguson
Oh,
climbed over two
that's his
6-foot fences
fault.
to reach the area where his hat had fallen. As he searched below, another train approached on the track above him. The train was traveling
No.
at 50 miles per hour. A passenger's dangling foot struck Ferguson in the head. The impact was
Oh,
instant. Ferguson was decapitated.
no
Witnesses saw the
way.
collision. The train continued to the station, while Ferguson's body lay below. Six Flags temporarily closed the Batman ride. It
So you
reopened the following day. The park
So you telling me bro went back to bro, he went back to go get that hat retrieve. That's the word. Golly, bro. Can I talk? Can I talk? He went back to retrieve that hat in a place that say do not enter. You know why a roller coaster say do not enter? Because they coming through. And he didn't even see it. He ain't hear nothing and just died over a hat, my boy. That hat was probably like 25 to $50. The roller coaster didn't kill him. He killed himself, bro. I'm sorry. He killed
added
himself,
security around
bro.
restricted areas
He
and
really
more
killed
warning signs.
himself.
Ferguson's death became one of the most graphic roller coaster fatalities in recent years.
Oh my
The
goodness,
Big
bro.
Dipper. On May 30th, 1972, a warm Tuesday afternoon in London, schools had just broken
1972.
up for
Ooh,
half-term, and Battersea Fun Fair was packed. The Big Dipper was a wooden roller coaster that had been operating since 1951. Three cars connected by a steel cable. The cable pulled the cars up a steep incline, then gravity did the rest. Around 2:30 p.m., 31 passengers climbed aboard, mostly children and teenagers. At the
31.
front rode a brakeman whose job was to control the brakes. The train began its climb. Then the haulage rope snapped. The train
Oh
hesitated
shoot.
at the top, then started rolling backwards. The brakeman
No.
lunged for the brake lever, but nothing happened. The brake system did not respond. The safety devices that should have stopped a rollback were missing or broken. As the train picked up speed, it hit the curve at the bottom at full speed. The wooden track
No.
couldn't handle the force. The first car jumped the rails, smashed through the barrier, and plunged 15 feet. The other two cars followed.
Oh.
Passengers were thrown from their seats. When the chaos ended, 5 children were dead, and 13 others were
No.
seriously injured. Later, a 15-year-old girl who had survived the crash was standing on a wooden walkway when the platform collapsed beneath her feet. She fell to her
No.
death. The subsequent investigation revealed 66 safety violations. The rope was in poor condition. Most safety devices were missing or broken. Investigators also found that employees had been drinking and using drugs while working.
Oh
The
my
ride's manager and
goodness.
engineer were later acquitted of manslaughter charges. The Big Dipper was torn down, and Battersea Fun Fair closed by 1974. Britain brought fairgrounds under
Dang.
safety laws following the incident. The Shockwave. On August 23,
But they did not
1999,
care back in the
20-year-old
day,
Timothy
bruh.
Fan visited King's Dominion with a friend. The Shockwave was a stand-up
I
roller
heard about the
coaster.
shockwave
Passengers
though.
stood upright, secured by shoulder harnesses and waist bars. Fan boarded the 6-car train. As the train climbed the lift hill and began its descent, witnesses noticed something wrong. Fan was wiggling and struggling against his restraints. He managed to work one arm free from the shoulder harness. His body began to contort sideways as the
Whoa.
train gained speed through the course. Near the end of the ride, the coaster entered a 180-degree curve.
Yeah,
The
that's not
forces
good.
acting on Fan's body proved too powerful. He was violently ejected from the
No.
train and thrown 40 feet onto a catwalk beside the tracks. Fan died instantly from head trauma.
Oh
When the
my
train returned to the
God.
station, Fan's restraints were still locked. He had deliberately worked himself free during the ride. The shockwave reopened 3 days later.
Oh
The
wow.
Mindbender. On
Oh
June 14th,
wow.
1986, the West Edmonton Mall in Alberta was packed
Bro,
with
my light
visitors.
just turned
The
off,
mall
bro.
housed an indoor amusement park featuring the Mindbender, a triple-loop steel roller coaster. The Mindbender had 4 cars connected in a train. It reached speeds of 60 miles per hour and took passengers through 3 complete loops. The ride had passed a safety inspection the day before. That evening, Rod
There we
Chico
go.
and 3 friends climbed into the last car of the train. The train launched and completed the first 2 loops. As it entered the third loop, 4 cap screws in the wheel assembly failed. The last car began to fishtail wildly.
Oh
The wheel
shoot.
detached from the track. The car derailed completely. The lap bar restraints unlocked,
Yo.
ejecting all 4 passengers 30 feet to the concrete floor below.
Yo,
The
30
train, slowed
feet.
by the derailment, rolled backwards and crashed into a concrete support pillar.
Oh.
Rescuers found 3 passengers dead. Rod Chaco survived, but was critically injured. Both his legs were shattered, along with his ribs, shoulder, pelvis, and lower back. His body was
God.
folded in half from the impact.
Oh
He
my
spent months learning
God.
to walk again. The investigation found design flaws in the wheel assembly and inadequate
Bro,
maintenance.
that
The cap
sucks,
screws had
bro.
worked loose over time. The Mindbender was closed for months while engineers redesigned the system. When it reopened, anti-rollback devices were installed, seatbelts were added, and the train was reduced from 4 cars to 3. The accident became Canada's worst roller coaster disaster. The Big Dipper 2. On July 24, 1930, a hot summer day in Omaha, Nebraska, Krug Park was packed with visitors. The Big Dipper was a wooden roller coaster, 4 cars connected in a
The Big
train. The
Dipper.
ride pulled
Bro,
passengers up the first hill, then
when I was little, bro, I heard about the Big Dipper, bro. That was one of the rides I wanted to go on, but I was too scared. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it was out when I was a youngin. I don't know. But I knew I heard about the Big Dipper, bro. You know what I'm saying? But God, all these stuff about the Big Dipper, bro, I'm good. I'm good. I don't even want to be on the Big
gravity
Dipper,
did the
bro.
rest. That afternoon, 23 passengers filled the 4 cars. Among them were Gladys Lundgren, C.H.
Bro, my
Stout,
light keep
Anthony
coming
Politica,
off,
and
bro. I don't
15-year-old
know what's
Ruth
going
Frell.
on.
The train began its climb up the first hill. Then a bolt in the brake mechanism worked loose and jammed one of
Well,
the
we ain't
wheels.
got no
The
light,
first
man.
car jumped the track. It broke through the guardrail and plunged 35 feet to the ground.
Hold on,
The
what
other 3
happened?
cars were dragged off behind it. Passengers were thrown from their
What
seats
happened?
feet to the train began its C.H. Stout, Anthony Politica, and 15-year-old Ruth Frell. The train began its climb up the first hill. Then a bolt in the brake mechanism worked loose and jammed one of the wheels.
Oh
The first
shoot.
car jumped the track.
Oh
It broke through the
shoot.
guardrail and plunged 35 feet to the ground. The other 3
35
cars were
feet.
dragged off
Oh
behind it.
my
Passengers were
gosh.
thrown from their
Bro,
seats and
just
crushed
imagine
beneath the
seeing
derailed
that,
cars.
fam.
The impact was
Never going to
devastating.
another roller
4 people
coaster.
were dead and 19 others were seriously injured. But the crowd of spectators had surged forward to see what happened. Thousands of people surrounded the crash site, blocking emergency access. Ambulances arrived, but couldn't reach the victims. Police were forced to break down sections of the park fence to create routes for medical personnel. The investigation found that the loose bolt had caused the wheel to lock up, forcing the car off the rails. Krug
Wow.
Park never recovered. Attendance dropped, and the park closed by 1940. The city of
Wow.
Omaha banned roller coasters for years afterwards. The site was later
Dang.
converted into a public park with no rides. The Big Dipper accident became known as the deadliest roller coaster disaster in U.S. history at that time. The Matterhorn bobsleds. On
All
January
that stuff
3rd,
I was talking about the Big
1984,
Dipper, I guess
48-year-old
it
Dolly
was
Young
not the
visited
Big Dipper.
Disneyland with 5 friends. The Matterhorn bobsleds featured small sleds that traveled through an artificial mountain at 43 miles per hour. Young sat
What in the
alone in her
world?
sled while her friends took the parallel track. The sleds began their descent through the mountain's tunnels. Partway through the ride, Young fell from her bobsled onto the tracks. An
No.
oncoming sled
No,
approached
no,
on the
no,
parallel track.
no.
The family inside thought the figure on the tracks was a dummy. The bobsled struck Young at full speed. She was
Oh
decapitated
my
instantly. The father in
God.
the oncoming sled realized what had happened. He screamed at his daughters to close their eyes as their sled passed over Young's body. The ride operators shut down the attraction when Young's empty sled arrived at the
Yo.
station. Young was pronounced dead at the scene. Her
Of
safety
course.
restraint was found fastened on a neighboring seat. The Matterhorn reopened the next day. Disney made modifications to the ride, though the changes were not
Hey,
disclosed. The
Disney
Wild
Channel
Wonder.
said the
On August
show
28,
must go on.
1999,
You know what I'm
Kimberly Bailey
saying?
and her 8-year-old daughter Jessica visited Jillian's Wonderland Pier in Ocean City, New Jersey. The Wild Wonder was a small steel roller coaster. Individual cars were pulled up a 40-foot incline before rolling through the course.
40 foot.
Bailey and Jessica climbed into one of the cars. As their car neared the top of the lift hill, the anti-rollback mechanism failed. The car lost contact with the lift chain and began rolling backwards down the incline. The car
No.
gained speed as it hurtled toward the station. It crashed violently into the loading area at the bottom. Bailey and Jessica were thrown from the car. Both died instantly.
Oh
The
my
park had replaced the
gosh.
coaster's anti-rollback device with an unapproved, locally made part. The faulty component had failed to engage. The Wild Wonder was shut down and removed. New Jersey upgraded its regulations to require manufacturer-approved parts only. The Derby Racer. In 1911, the Derby Racer opened at Revere
1911.
Beach, Massachusetts. It featured 2 parallel tracks where trains raced against each other in a figure-8 pattern. The ride had no restraints, no speed controls, and basic wooden construction.
So they
Passengers
were
simply
just
held
free
on as the
balling.
trains raced around curves and hills. Within weeks of opening, disaster struck. A man was thrown from his car during a turn and died. Later that year,
No.
the company's own treasurer was killed. He had stood up in his car to lecture passengers about safety when he was ejected from the ride.
Oh
Authorities
my
closed the coaster
gosh.
and demanded safety improvements. The owners installed primitive brakes and lap bars before reopening, but the deaths continued. On a
Oh
busy day in
my God.
1917, a man lost his hat during the ride. He tried to
Man,
retrieve it and fell out of his car on a high incline.
here we go with these hats, man. Bro, that hat is not that important, bro. The hat is not that important. Y'all killing yourself on a roller coaster because of a hat. Why you even wearing a hat on a roller coaster to begin with, bro? You going up in the air. You know, man.
He landed on the adjacent track. The other racing train struck him at full speed. The wreckage told the
Oh.
story. The impact broke nearly every bone in his body. He died shortly after. Another passenger was
Oh
thrown
my
from the train
God.
in
That mean he
1929.
felt that
Despite
pain.
3 confirmed deaths and numerous injuries, the Derby Racer continued operating for 25 years.
No
Each
way.
incident led to minor modifications, but the fundamental design remained dangerous. The ride's license was revoked and reinstated multiple times as authorities struggled with the deadly attraction. The Derby Racer finally closed in
Bro,
1936
and people
when it
was
was
still
replaced by a
getting
newer
on
model.
that.
It became known as one of the most dangerous roller coasters ever built. The Rough Riders. In 1910, the Rough Riders roller coaster opened at Coney Island. The ride featured an electric-powered system where the motorman controlled speed with a throttle. That first year, the train derailed on a sharp curve. 17 passengers were thrown from the track. 3 people
God.
were dead, and many others were seriously injured. Coney Island officials made minor improvements,
Coney
but the
Island.
ride continued operating. 5 years later, on July 27th,
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. Any like roller coasters that's not already built. Like say somebody what's that stuff? A carnival. Like you know how in carnivals they just build up a roller coaster out of nowhere, bro, or take it out of a suitcase, whatever they be doing, bro. I don't trust any of those roller coasters, bro. Not one of them. Cause they just built that. Bro, no, bro. No. No, 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 no. I don't trust them roller coasters. Six Flags, you know what I'm
1915,
saying? That's
6
cool.
passengers boarded the Rough
That's
Riders.
cool.
As the
Other than
train gained
that,
speed down a
nah.
steep incline, it approached a
Carnival
sharp
sleeps
turn. The
dead.
motorman took the turn too fast. The train's wheels left the track. The car flipped on its side 30
Oh.
feet in the air. Passengers were hurled into an iron railing and fell to the ground below. The damage was
Oh.
severe. 3 riders were killed by the fall. 2 others clung to the wrecked car until police rescued them. A woman and her son survived by hanging onto the handrail. A bystander on the ground was struck by a falling body. The Rough Riders had now killed 6 people in 5 years. The ride was shut down after the
Yo.
1915 accident and dismantled within a few years. The repeated tragedies helped establish early safety regulations at Coney Island, including requirements for better braking systems and restraints. The Fujin Raijin 2. On May 5, 2007, Expoland Amusement Park in Osaka was packed with visitors for Children's
Osaka.
Day. Fujin Raijin 2 was a stand-up roller coaster. 20 passengers boarded the 6-car train, including 19-year-old university student Yoshino Kogawara. The train launched and began its course.
I don't
As it
trust them
traveled
stand-up ones,
131
bro.
feet above the ground,
131
passengers
feet.
heard a loud crack. The second car suddenly derailed.
131
The wheel
feet. We
axle had
just saying
snapped,
that.
causing the car to tilt violently. Kogawara was thrown against the guardrail at high speed. She struck her
Oh.
head and was killed instantly. The derailed car dragged the rest of the train for 984 feet before stopping. 19 other passengers were injured. The investigation revealed extreme negligence. The park had skipped annual maintenance in 2007. The wheel axle had not been replaced in 15 years. Park officials
God.
had reported the axle as good condition based only on visual inspection.
That's
The axle had
crazy.
cracked from metal fatigue. Proper testing would have detected the crack, but Expoland had bypassed all safety requirements. Expoland's
They didn't want
attendance
to spend
collapsed
that
after the
money.
accident. The park briefly reopened but closed permanently in 2009 as the owners declared bankruptcy.
That's what
The
they
Son
get.
of Beast. In 2000, Kings Island opened Son of Beast, a wooden roller coaster that
But
reached
that mug
speeds of
looks
78 miles
scary.
per hour. The ride had problems from the start, with track malfunctions and rough jolting.
Bro,
In
look at the
2001,
track.
riders suffered broken vertebrae and a broken neck.
Oh,
Another
shoot.
passenger was hospitalized with back injuries in 2003. On July 9, 2006,
Hey,
27
that's a day
passengers were
after my
aboard
birthday.
when one train cracked a support beam while passing through the Rose Bowl section. The damaged beam caused the track to sag. When the next train hit the weakened section, the track dipped suddenly. The
Oh,
jolt was brutal. 27
oh,
people were rushed to hospitals with chest and neck injuries. One passenger said it felt like hitting a brick wall. The investigation found cracked and splintered wooden support beams throughout the structure. Son of Beast reopened after modifications, but
wooden
another
roller
accident occurred in
coasters is
2009.
crazy.
A passenger
It's
suffered a
not the
broken
early
blood
two.
vessel
I'm
in her
not
head.
early
The ride
1900s,
never
man.
operated again. It was demolished in 2012. Son of Beast had become one of the most notorious failures in roller coaster history. The Cobra. In 2008,
The
the Cobra roller
Cobra.
coaster opened at Tivoli Friheden Amusement Park in Aarhus, Denmark. Months after opening, the front car detached from the track.
Oh,
4 young riders were injured with fractures and concussions. The park made repairs, and the Cobra continued operating. On July 14, 2022, riders felt a jolt and heard cracking metal as the train went through its course. The rear car broke off from the track.
oh my
The last row
God.
of seats detached and hung off the side of the coaster. A
No,
14-year-old girl in the rear car was thrown and killed. A
no.
13-year-old boy next to her suffered a hand injury, but survived. The train ground to a halt. Park staff evacuated the area. The girl could not be saved. The
Oh
same
my
structural flaw
gosh.
had now caused 2 major accidents. Tivoli Friheden dismantled the Cobra the next day, and the ride was permanently closed. The Cobra had failed twice in identical fashion over 14 years of operation.
That's
The Quimera.
crazy. It took
On
y'all
September
14 years
28,
just to fail
2019,
again?
visitors gathered at La Feria Chapultepec Mágico in Mexico City. Quimera was a triple-loop steel roller coaster. The aging Schwarzkopf model had a history of maintenance issues. That day, witnesses saw the last car of a train shake violently and derail on a turn near the end of the ride. The
Oh.
rear car flipped upside down and detached completely. 2 riders were thrown out from 33 feet. 2 young men, ages 18 and 21,
Oh
died
my
from head injuries.
God.
2 women were also injured when the car slammed into the structure. The investigation found that a component in the car's axle assembly had broken, causing it to detach. Mexico City authorities immediately
Bro, the
closed La
metal
Feria
seat just
Chapultepec. Investigators found
landed right
multiple
on their
safety
head,
violations
though.
and revoked the park's permit.
Ugh.
Within months, the historic amusement park was
Body
permanently
is
shut down
crushed.
and dismantled. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for similar ones and feel free to drop suggestions for the next
Bro, that's
video.
insane. That's really insane to me. It don't make any sense, bro. It don't. Hey, man, if you enjoyed that video, man, go ahead and give it a like, give it a subscribe, man. I'm out. I'm out. You know what I'm saying? Y'all stay blessed, stay positive, like always, man. Take care of yourself. Man, I don't get how people really stay on these roller coasters after hearing about these roller coasters. Like, yeah, like